In the stark, intimidating arena of the courtroom where every whisper echoed with consequence, and the air was thick with the palpable tension of fractured relationships, the formidable Judge Judy presided, her gaze sharp enough to dissect truth from a tapestry of lies. And before her stood Mr. and Mrs. Salazar, a couple whose familial bond with the defendant, Eleanor, was about to be tested in a crucible of financial betrayal and broken promises. Judge Judy, with a voice that cut through the formalities like a laser, began the inquisition, her first target being the very foundation of their connection, asking, "Mr. and Mrs. Salazar, who is the relative of the defendant?" A nervous man, Mr. Salazar almost jumped out of his skin, his anxiety a live wire in the room as he stammered, "I am," while his wife, Mrs. Salazar, seated beside him, instinctively reached out to physically poke him. A gesture of misguided prompting that Judge Judy immediately shut down with a swift, commanding rebuke. "You don't have to poke him." "Don't poke him," which elicited a flustered and meek apology from Mrs. Salazar. "Oh, sorry," setting the stage for a drama where every word and gesture would be scrutinized. The judge, establishing the relational dynamics, pressed further. "And how is she a relative of yours?" To which Mr. Salazar, trying to steady his voice, explained, "She's my aunt," unveiling a story that began not with malice, but with an act of profound familial compassion. Judge Judy, laying out the foundational tragedy, narrated, "There came a time when, according to your complaint, she was in a situation where she was going to become homeless, she and her family, and you agreed to allow her to move in with you and your family." A statement Mr. Salazar confirmed with a simple, "Yes," a word that belied the immense weight of the decision that would ultimately lead them to this courtroom. The judge continued, painting a picture of a verbal contract meant to save a family from disaster. "And there was an agreement to pay rent. She moved in with her husband and some children. But Eleanor, the defendant, her voice laced with a defensive tremor, quickly corrected the record. "No, I have no husband, just my son." A crucial detail that Judge Judy acknowledged with a measured, "Just your son." "And there was an agreement to pay rent," which Eleanor affirmed, "Yes, the first month after I moved in with them," explaining how she had secured a job and begun fulfilling her part of the bargain, a fact Judge Judy solidified. "And you got a job and you did start to pay rent. That was $500 a month?" To which both parties agreed, establishing the first thread in a web of financial entanglements. The heart of the conflict, however, pulsed not with the simple rent, but with a plastic card that represented both a lifeline and a leash. As Judge Judy turned her attention to the most significant claim, "One of the things that you claim she owes you for is an unpaid credit care," before being gently corrected by Mrs. Salazar. "Care credit, a term that would become the symbol of the entire broken trust." The judge, ensuring the court understood the gravity of this financial instrument, inquired, "And tell me about what that is. Is that a—" To which Mrs. Salazar elaborated with a tone of pride and possessiveness, "It's a credit card to help for dental vision. It's very hard to get approved for it based on credit scoring." A statement that piqued Judge Judy's interest as she sought to identify the true owner of this valuable line of credit. "So, who got approved?" Mrs. Salazar responded with emphasis, "It was mine. I've had it previous years." A declaration of ownership that was met with a confirming, "It was yours?" from the judge, who then probed into the necessity of its use. "And you needed to use it for eye care?" Eleanor, her voice softening with a mix of shame and remembered desperation, explained, "For eye care and for dental work," leading to the pivotal moment of the supposed favor, which Judge Judy framed with precision. "And so she loaned you her card for that." The simple affirmation from Eleanor, "She did." "Yes?" hung in the air, a admission that would unleash a torrent of financial and emotional repercussions. The judge, moving in for the crucial numbers, asked the question that defined the debt, "And how much did you use on her card?" And Eleanor, her words careful, admitted, "I used close to $700. It was about $680 that I used for the dental work and for the eyewear as well," a sum that seemed to vibrate in the room. Then came the most damning question from Judge Judy, a question that separated intention from action. "Did you pay them back?" The air grew thick as Eleanor began to squirm, offering not a direct answer but a deflection. "I was starting to make payments on that card." A response that Judge Judy would not accept, repeating her question with more force. "Did you pay them back?" Forcing Eleanor to confront the bald truth. "For the full amount?" "No." The admission was like a crack of thunder, and Judge Judy, unsatisfied with vagaries, demanded specifics. "What amount did you pay back?" Eleanor, now floundering, could only offer hazy recollections. "I made a couple of payments. I didn't bring proof of that, but I did make a couple payments. I think one was $75, and I can't recall how much the other one was." Her lack of evidence speaking volumes against the cold, hard data of the statement that Judge Judy then examined, her eyes scanning the document that told a story of neglect and accumulating fees, her voice cutting through the silence. "Were there 2 payments that you made?" She pressed, but the testimony became a muddle as Mrs. Salazar interjected. "There are several payments. She's made maybe multiple payments in 1 month, I believe some like..." But Judge Judy, a master of cutting through chaos, silenced her with a firm, "I want you to tell me the money that she paid, since she doesn't have proof, on the card." "Was there 0 balance on the card?" The answer from Mrs. Salazar, a quiet "yes," prompted the judge to scrutinize the evidence herself, her analysis delivered to the room. "Oh, then I'll take a look at it. Oh, I see there are fees built up on this card. There were charges built up on this card. So the new balance is $694.27. Her final, almost weary pronouncement, "Expensive card. Got to pay that off," was a verdict in itself. A condemnation of the financial irresponsibility that had taken a simple agreement and ballooned it into a source of deep-seated resentment and a legal claim. But the care credit debt was only the first act in this tragedy of entangled lives. The plot thickened with the introduction of a leased car, a metallic symbol of even greater trust and subsequent disillusionment. Judge Judy, shifting the focus, stated, "Another thing that you claim she owes you for is for tolls. At some point you leased a car for her, Mr. Salazar?" The confusion was immediate as Mr. Salazar clarified, "No, it's for me." A correction that only deepened the mystery, prompting the judge to reframe, "It was for you? But I lent it to her." This labyrinth of ownership and usage was further complicated when Mr. Salazar explained the peculiar arrangement. On her promise that she would pay it off until she could get it refinanced, then the car would be hers. A plan that Judge Judy, with her razor-sharp logic, instantly dismantled. Well, if it's a lease, then it doesn't get to be hers. Okay. The absurdity of the situation was not lost on the court. But the judge pressed on, turning to Mr. Salazar with a pointed question. "Did you ever use the car, Mr. Salazar?" His admission, "I borrowed it." "Yes," opened a new line of inquiry. "How many times did you borrow it?" To which he replied, "I'd say about twice." And then, the most revealing detail, "Did you borrow it for long trips?" Mr. Salazar's response, "It was for a trip to Mexico," landed with a thud, a confession that he too had contributed to the very wear and tear and mileage overages that were now part of the complaint, leading Judge Judy to wave away that particular aspect with dismissive practicality. So the fact that there was overage on the mileage when you took the car back, I'm not going to sit here and figure that out. This brought the drama to the final, almost petty but symbolically charged issue of the tolls. Judge Judy asked, "So let's talk about the tolls. How much were the tolls?" Mrs. Salazar presented the figure. Almost $250, but when pressed for the exact amount, she had to admit, "I don't have that paper with me with the exact amount." A failure of evidence that Judge Judy immediately seized upon, though Mrs. Salazar tried to recover. "But I do have the proof of each payment or statement that they've given to us when we went to go speak to them regarding the situation." It was at this moment that Judge Judy, in a soft yet devastatingly clear tone that silenced the entire room, uttered the words that deflated the entire toll argument. Softly, "I don't care about the tolls." She then cut to the heart of the matter, her voice returning to its normal commanding timbre. It is my understanding from reading these papers that you were together with her in the car when the tolls were accumulated. Is that yes or a no? Mrs. Salazar initially denied it. I wasn't with her. No, placing the blame solely on Eleanor. It was her, I don't know. She had possession of the vehicle when she moved out, so I don't know. But Eleanor was ready with a counter-memory, a specific detail that changed everything, Your Honor. The first time that we got billed for that. It was once going to LA, once coming back. That was on February 6th. We went to LA together before we were going to go to Vegas to go shop. Going, she was like, Judge Judy, pinpointing the admission, interrupted. So you were together? Forcing a reluctant, yes, we were, from Eleanor. The rest of the tolls, accumulated after Eleanor had moved out, were a separate matter, but the damage was done. The picture of the two women, Mrs. Salazar and her aunt by marriage Eleanor, on a joint shopping trip to Los Angeles, sharing the car, sharing the road, and inevitably sharing the responsibility for the tolls from that specific journey, painted a picture of a relationship that was once collaborative, now reduced to a bitter and petty squabble over a few dollars, a perfect metaphor for the complete collapse of their familial bond. The entire case was a sordid tapestry woven with threads of good intentions, financial dependency, blurred lines of ownership, forgotten favors, and the slow, corrosive poison of unpaid debts, all playing out under the unflinching and discerning gaze of Judge Judy, who had to untangle not just money, but the shattered pieces of trust that once held a family together. Lesson for the listeners and viewers. This tragic story of Mr. and Mrs. Salazar and Eleanor serves as a stark and vital lesson for everyone. When mixing family or friendship with finances, clear, written agreements are not a sign of distrust, but the very foundation of lasting trust. Verbal promises and assumptions are fragile threads that quickly snap under the weight of financial strain and human forgetfulness. The emotional cost of a fractured relationship over a few $100s is a price far higher than any amount on a credit card statement or a pile of toll fees. Protect your relationships by protecting the agreements that govern them. Put everything in writing, define the terms clearly, and understand that generosity, without boundaries and accountability, can often be the very thing that destroys the bond it was meant to strengthen.